Ho, ho, ho! Is this thing on? Mic check. One sleigh, two sleigh. That's right. I've got a podcast now. Stories, jokes, and some serious North Pole nonsense. Santa Has a Podcast is out now at santahasapodcast.com. Ho, ho, ho!
Support American jobs while standing up for your values. OldGloryDepot.com brings you conservative pride on premium, made-in-USA gear. Don't settle. Wear your patriotism proudly. Visit OldGloryDepot.com today.
I say this every election cycle, and I'll say it again. The 2024 political field was intense, so don't get left behind in 2025. If you're running for office, the first thing on your to-do list should be securing your name on the web. With a yourname.vote domain from GoDaddy.com, you'll stand out and make your mark. Don't wait. Get yours today.
Welcome to another episode of Breaking Battlegrounds with your host Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone. Our first guest up today, a frequent Battlegrounds buddy on this program, Henry Olsen. He is a senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. You can follow the Ethics and Public Policy Center, eppc.org. And for Henry, follow him on X, Henry Olsen, EPPC.
Henry, welcome.
Thanks for having me back.
So I'm going to throw you two questions that you probably won't be asked today, but I think you can have good answers for them. First of all, Switzerland is going to have a vote in June to cap the population at 10 million people. Polling shows it's winning between 8 and 9%. One, do you think this will pass? And two, explain to your audience why Switzerland's pushing this and we could possibly see this in other countries in Europe.
You know, it could very well pass. Swiss have no problem going outside the mainstream in their direct democracy process, and it's being backed by the largest party in Switzerland, the Swiss People's Party, gets around 25 to 30% of the vote. The rest of the parties in government are opposing this, so I think it's going to be very close. But the reason why it's being pushed is because Switzerland has a massive number of migrants. It's got one of the largest populations as a percentage of the total population of non-natives in the world, certainly in Western Europe, and many of them are not of European background. You know, certainly there's a lot of Europeans and Americans who go to Zurich or Geneva for international organizations or for finance or for business, but it has a large number of Muslim immigrants. And by capping the population at 10 million, you would have a de facto immigration ban. That once you get to this point, you say the country is full, and the people who want to come here can't come here anymore. And the vast majority of those new immigrants are not the high-end Western immigrants who come for work at the high end, but people who come to try and have a better life and avoid their distressed countries on the low end. And this is the Swiss attempt to say no more.
Switzerland is not part of the European Union, so what could be the ramifications if they do pass this from their European Union allies and trade pacts and things of that nature?
Yeah, well, certainly I'm not sure how the EU has reacted thus far to the proposed law. You know, it's not a law yet. Mm-hmm. I believe Switzerland is part of the Schengen Agreement, which allows for free transport. I don't know how it would necessarily intersect with that. But what it does send is it would be a rallying call to similar parties to the Swiss People's Party that want to completely cut off migration from undeveloped or lesser developed countries. If it were to pass, it would certainly give an impetus to those parties to call for similar things in their own country, and that would be a direct blow to the Brussels approach, which is to immigration, mend it, don't end it. They want to deal with repatriations and lower asylum calls, but they do not want to simply shut the doors. And if this were to pass in Switzerland, I think you would begin to see this become a European war cry or or flag that's waved by similar popular parties across Europe going. And that would have particular importance in France because the National Rally, the populist party there, is leading in all the polls. could very well get a majority, which they need in their system to elect a president. I would be a little surprised if Jordan Bardella or Marine Le Pen, the two candidates who will lead RN into the April 2027 presidential elections, would not adopt a similar call or something just short of that if it were to pass in Switzerland.
All right, second question. Democrats seem to have two favorite topics, ICE and the Epstein files, which I didn't hear anything about from 2021 to 2024. My question is this. And I ask this because you're an attorney, and I think you'll know the answer. You see a lot on social media. You see a lot of people talking about you have these victims. A lot of them have signed settlements with the Epstein estate. You have these congressional members who go in and read it and see the names not redacted. What is preventing those who did get a settlement from naming names? And what is preventing from congressional members from going on the floor and naming names? I mean, it just seems like they want to keep dragging this out, where a simple thing is just name the names.
Yeah, I think if you were going to get a settlements typically they're between private parties, and you can attach terms to them. Although if they're legal settlements, they're always going to be approved by a court and have the force of law if you violate them. They'll typically have things like non-disclosure agreements. We'll pay you such and such amount of money if you say you're not going to say information X, Y, and Z. And of course, one of the things the Epstein estate would probably not want is to talk about people who allegedly, and that's all a statement would be, is an alleged participant.
I think we've lost.
Unfortunately, yeah, we appear to have lost Henry. We're going to try to get him back as quick as we can here. Obviously, this is going to be an ongoing topic. I wanted to touch back while we're just waiting here, Chuck. People don't realize how much jihadist violence has been rocking Europe. Yeah. I mean, one of the things about Switzerland's move is that they have had a massive series of bombings across the country that no one's reporting.
Yeah. Henry, go ahead. We cut you off here when you were talking about the settlements. We lost you when you were talking about
that's fine. I didn't realize about the bombings, but certainly I knew that there are many countries that have bombings that are related to Islamic migrants. Sweden is particularly prone to hand grenade attacks. People just throw hand grenades into
apparently Switzerland, it's like a wild series of ATM bombings where they're using explosives to blow them open, and then people are getting collaterally injured and killed. So
amazing how that's something people may not like. But so with respect to the Epstein files, the question is, what if somebody reads something? They're going to be accusing somebody of something that is arguably illegal or immoral without going through any sort of process of checking those allegations. And that means that they would be open to defamation charges. Now, if they were to say them on the House floor, the Constitution provides that no member shall be held in any way liable for things they say on the House floor. I think we're going to see whether or not that pertains to non-official business with respect to Nancy Mace having claimed that her former fiance on the floor, she claimed on the floor that her former fiance raped her and so forth. But I'm sure people don't want to be subject to a defamation charge, and I'm not sure they want to be the person who tests that by making I saw such and such in an unredacted file. And I think that's why so many of the names are redacted, which is why would you want to de facto make an allegation?
Exactly.
Without going through the sort of things that would allow you to be certain that you could get a conviction in the court of law. I think that's what's been going through. There may be a cover-up, but more likely is that prosecutors who know they have to meet certain evidentiary standards to say certain things about people are loath to do that generally in criminal investigations until they know they can back them up.
Yeah, no, yeah,
and that's what's going on,
and that's what's so disappointing about this is that the news media is not having an honest conversation why these names are not being named. Sam, you had some questions here.
Well, I guess one of the first things I had there is a lot. It seems like from the reporting, Epstein had a very controlled system where he was taking a lot of these victims and turning them into the abusers and having them recruit and participate in the trafficking. How much is that hampering the investigation?
I wouldn't know without knowing more about the specifics of any investigations that are ongoing. It's not clear to me there are investigations that are ongoing. There's this brouhaha about who did what when, but I'm not aware of
I
investigations into people beyond Epstein and Maxwell as to what they did and when. I think there's a prurient interest here that feeds into the belief that many people have that there is an elite that actively conspires to hurt average people and they live debauched lifestyles. But it's not clear to me that there are any investigations ongoing. And if they were, that would be the sort of thing you would have to look into, which is how can we trust the victims? Just because a victim was victimized doesn't mean that they also don't have the capacity to lie to bring other people into this circle.
Is that a problem that there aren't obvious active investigations on these people? Because I keep looking at this and saying, great, there's all this, as you put it, prurient news coming out about it. People are focused on it. But like at the end of the day, I think people are going to be bitterly angry and disappointed if there aren't some people held to account. I mean, this is a really serious globe-spanning criminal enterprise. And it's like all the
But
people...
held to account for what, Sam? That's the thing, is that Epstein is dead, Maxwell is in jail. A lot of these things happened years ago. There may be statute of limitations issues involved. I'd have to look at individual crimes to know. Some of these people may have been minors when they allegedly committed these acts. The question is, what happened and who did what? Clearly, the people at the top of the pyramid have been punished or are dead. The question is, what is to be gained from bringing about people who may have participated under duress or not under duress as essentially foot soldiers in this activity. Without knowing more, I don't really want to pass comment on.
No, it's a great point, Henry. We got 2 minutes left in this segment. The inflation report today, again, it was under what economists predicted. What do you think needs to happen? Where's the economy need to be in June and July for Republicans to have a chance of maintaining their majorities in the House and Senate?
I think the economy needs to be showing real wage gains and directionally employment opportunities opening up. Is what we've seen in the first year of the Trump administration is that for people who, across the board, but particularly people in the lower end of the socioeconomic status, are finding it harder to get and hold jobs. It's not a recession, it's not awful, but
Right.
It's not better. And real wage gains are happening, but they're happening slowly, so that the average person is still poorer today than they were when Joe Biden took office. So I think if you started to see noticeable pickups on both things, people would start to feel better about the economy. The bottom line for Trump is that his job approval rating among registered voter polls is 43%. He wants to get that to the 45 to 46% range to pretty much guarantee the Republicans holding the Senate. I think it would be very, very difficult under any circumstance for the Republicans to hold the House, given their very narrow majority.
How much of we'll get into that when we come back because we don't have much time here, but even not having the House is going to be a major, major problem for the Trump administration, I tend to think. Folks, Breaking Battleground is going to be coming back with more here in just one moment, so stay tuned.
All right, imagine this. You're running for president. Yes, president. What's the first thing you need? Well, besides the $1 million fundraising, you need to secure your web domain. You need your name, .vote. Easy to remember, straight to the point, and a direct link to your campaign. No, but seriously, whether you're getting out to vote or convincing people that yes, you can fix the potholes on Main Street, a .vote domain helps you stand out. It's not just a website, it's a call to action. Head over to GoDaddy.com or Name.com, type in your name, .vote, and boom, you're ready to make a lasting impact. Get started today with your .vote web address.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds with host Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone. Continuing on now with Henry Olsen, Senior Fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. Follow him on X at Henry Olsen EPPC.
Going back to polling, we want to talk about the numbers here on this segment. The one thing that concerns me for Republicans even having a chance of keeping the House besides the economy is all these plus 10 Republican districts Trump won, legislative seats that we're losing. Mm-hmm. Does that concern you if you're looking at this and you want a Republican majority?
Yes, but not as much as the media is talking about, because you have to remember that all these special elections are lower turnout. That this Texas state Senate election that everyone was touting, was a massive swing from a Trump plus 17 to a double-digit Democratic victory, but it was done on 1/3 of the turnout of what should be expected in the midterm. And we know that Democrats are so angry at Trump that they will crawl over broken glass and naked feet to vote in this year. What concerns me is the job approval rating. It's that the single largest predictor of the in-party's share of the vote in a midterm is the job approval rating. Donald Trump lost 40 House seats in 2018 when his job approval rating on Election Day was 45%. He's 2 points below that right now. Get that job approval rating up, and the natural increase in turnout in midterms will help. But you're not going to hold the House unless you're up in the 47% range, and then it becomes a fighting shot. And right now, the president isn't even close. We should not be thinking about holding the House as a realistic possibility or even a realistic fantasy at this point, given the data.
One thing, Henry, that is incredibly clear these days, right, is there are two entirely separate universes that Republicans and Democrats exist in. We don't see the same news. We don't hear the same speeches or talks or any of those kind of things. There is right now a pretty massive Republican cash advantage in the big orgs. The Republican National Committee, DCCC fundraising way behind right now. So should they be up on TV? Should they be out paying to put the message out? Because Donald Trump actually has a lot more wins in his first year than he's getting credit for, and their messaging, as Chuck has said many times on this program, is horrid.
You have to figure out how much you're going to be bringing in, too. You've got a massive cash advantage, but if you don't think you're going to be bringing in an equal amount, you don't want to spend all of your money 9 months ahead of time. I think that what the president should be doing and the National Committee should be doing is beginning to have partisan messaging that tries to raise Trump's job approval rating and tie it to the Republican Party if it seems to be successful. But one thing I think that they should also consider is the Supreme Court's case. They have to rule on whether or not the ban on coordination between party committees and candidate campaigns will hold. And what that means is that the outside committees pay vastly higher per ad rates for television ads.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means is that right now, if you start to spend the money, you may be paying 5 to 10 times as much for the same ad as a campaign would spend. If that goes away, certainly many of the party committees would be able to get candidate ad rates, and that means your bucks go farther. So that we'll know by June 30th whether and what the Supreme Court does. I think at least the party committees, as opposed to the super PAC that the president has, should be holding their cash, because they might have the opportunity to make it go much, much farther if the Supreme Court rules that the current coordination ban is unconstitutional.
What are 3 or 4 poll numbers out there that should give Democrats pause that they will not have this great election in the midterms?
Well, the fact that despite the president's very low job approval rating, they're not as far ahead in the generic ballot as you might think, given 42% job approval. The fact that Democrats, Harry Ensign at CNN had a spot yesterday that said that 55% of Democrats, or 55% of voters say that Democrats are too liberal. So what you have is a resistant to Democrats as Democrats. People are looking and saying, I don't like Trump, but I don't like the opposition either. And what we know is that when that was the case in 2022, Joe Biden was able to turn Trump Republicans into the message rather than his own dismal job approval ratings, and that meant that people who were, didn't hate him but didn't like him were willing to give Democrats another chance. That's the best shot for Republicans to hold the House, which is if they can get the president's job approval rating up to 44, 45%. Biden's was at 44 on election day, according to the exit polls in the midterm year of 2022, and then split the people who kind of don't like Trump but don't hate him. That could lead to a narrow Republican retention against all odds. That's not dealing right now. It would look like that's not the equivalent of dealing to an inside straight. That's like dealing to the equivalent of a royal flush. But it's not impossible, and it could improve, which is why if Trump is going to spend his money early, what he needs to do is tell people why he's doing a good job, why they should feel better about him in direct and no uncertain terms. That's the single thing that Republicans can do right now to improve their chances across the board.
One of the issues I think he's facing, Henry, I'd love your take on this, is that blue states have built a wall against federal policy where a lot of the tax policy changes, a lot of the other positive changes that Trump has implemented appear to be occurring primarily in red states, and blue state residents aren't benefiting. How do you tell the story to those folks?
You don't tell people, you don't believe your lying eyes, believe what I say. It never works.
Right.
It never works. So, the best thing that Trump can do is try and increase lower inflation in areas where people feel them. When Biden was faced with that, he sold a lot of the oil and the petroleum reserve and went to places like Venezuela and Saudi Arabia saying, please increase your production so we have lower gas prices. And it worked. It helped bring inflation down, and it brought the thing that people see every day when they go out and buy gas or drive by a gas station. It brought that down. And Trump's trying to do that with beef. Beef prices are one of the areas that are much, much higher. Americans like to eat beef in all of their different forms. And so by increasing imports from Argentina, he's trying to bring beef prices down. So that's the sort of thing that he can do. But I wouldn't advertise on that directly. I wouldn't say the economy is great, don't believe your lying eyes. What I do is, say something that's true, which is things are getting better, but they're not getting fast enough. But trust President Trump to get it right.
Is he trapped?
That's believable.
Is he trapped by having said this is, when he was campaigning, all this, I'm going to fix it overnight. As soon as I'm in, this is fixed. Like, that was clearly not believable to anyone who knew what they were looking at.
Yeah, and this is one of Trump's ongoing problems, is he overstates and oversells.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if he were willing to step back a little bit and say with some degree of humility that, I thought it could be going faster. It's going in the right direction, just not as fast as I can. Trust me. There, people who voted for him 2 years ago may respond to that. You have to deliver a message that's plausible.
Right.
And it's better than you think. We know that doesn't work. Biden tried it. We know that doesn't work because that's not the way people think. Don't waste your money doing something we know isn't going to work.
100%. Henry Olsen, thank you so much for joining us once again. We always love having you on the program and look forward to having you back again very soon here. Folks, stay tuned. We have Ashley Hayek coming up next. You're not going to want to miss that one. Breaking Battlegrounds. We'll be right back.
Old Glory Depot isn't just a website. It's a movement. Featuring unapologetically conservative shirts and gear, we're proud to deliver 100% American-made products. From premium materials to bold designs, every purchase supports American jobs and celebrates our country. Show your pride, support your values, and shop oldglorydepot.com because patriotism never goes out of style.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. Our next guest up today is Ashley Hayek. She is the president of America First Works and has been a repeat guest on this program. Ashley Hayek, you can follow her on X at Ashley Hayek. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be back.
So, Ashley, they're shutting down the DHS. It's going to have zero impact on ICE, the whole purpose of the shutdown, like zero. I mean, aren't they funded through 28, 29? ICE?
Well, that's exactly right. And despite what all of the left continues to argue, a shutdown would not significantly impact ICE functions at all because of the funding that was passed due to the big, beautiful bill last year. Instead, shutting down DHS would just really undermine national security. And when this is an issue that President Trump was elected on in 2024, and we're headed into a midterm year, I just can't understand the rationale behind the left and what they're thinking and why they would continue to advocate to try and shut down the government and undermine national security.
Could someone tell them that the IRS has a key role in funding ICE, so they shut that down during tax season? That'd work for me.
Right. Give us all a little extension.
Yeah.
And all of those things.
I can make a few more bucks on my money before I give it to them.
So, Ashley, explain to our audience, by them temporarily shutting down DHS, what did this affect? It does not affect ICE, so it affects things like FEMA, if we have a natural emergency, Coast Guard.
Yep.
TSA.
That's exactly right.
Poor TSA agents. We know they're not becoming millionaires doing that. So you're, again, asking them to go without pay.
And very low income. Very low income. Yeah.
Isn't the Cybersecurity Agency in that as well, which is a fairly big thing right now?
Well, exactly. And all of these functions, like they directly benefit the American people. They keep us safe. They keep our travel moving along quickly. And so at the end of the day, I think they believe that this will hurt the Republican Party, and it doesn't. It's their messaging. The only thing I have heard from the left so far this year has been about Jeffrey Epstein and how ICE is terrible. But when you read the stories, when you see the people who are being, removed from our country, these are bad guys.
Yes.
These are not, good people. These are not, grandma, whatever on the street. Like these are people who are rapists, murderers, kidnappers, child molesters. They're not people we want in this country. So what are they fighting for? They're not fighting for the American people. They're just grandstanding.
Well, and one of the interesting things is because of their actions and their sanctuary state policies, so when ICE goes to the House and they're targeting that illegal alien criminal, and they then have to ID everyone else at that house, you find 2 or 3 other people who have not committed a crime other than entering the country illegally. They have to take them all. Like they don't have a choice at that point just to say, oh, you're not our target and leave it behind. So a lot of what Democrats are complaining about in terms of people who aren't, violent criminals getting swept up is a direct result of their own policies.
And Kristi Noem has said since she was, sworn into her secretary position, deport yourself. We'll give you money to leave. You can go through the process legally. But if you violate the law again by staying, then you won't ever be able to come back. So this isn't a surprise. This isn't any new policy. This is exactly what the president campaigned on. It's what the American people voted for. And it's what, quite frankly, Secretary Noem has incentivized from the moment she became Secretary of Homeland Security.
How does the Trump administration, we have just a minute and a half left in this segment, then we're going to be coming back for a much longer one, but how does the Trump administration start changing the narrative around the ICE operations? Because I think it got a little out of control on them, and they need to pull it back and bring a broader audience in on the facts of what they're actually doing.
Tom Homan has done an incredible job. We've seen what's, a change in Minnesota. He's been out there working to resolve issues with Rodney Scott, who's with Customs and Border Patrol, head of Customs and Border Patrol. Here's the reality. You all remember this too from, the first Trump administration. The mainstream media is not the friend of the administration, and they're not going to share the good news of the fact that because we've, exported all of these criminal illegal aliens, crime is down, violent crime is down, fentanyl overdoses are down. All of these, benefits that have come from this policy has had a major impact. So it is our responsibility as citizens to make sure that people understand our communities are safer, we are winning, and will continue to, thanks to this administration. It's going to be little social keyboard warriors. It's not being afraid to speak up. And I'll just tell you one thing. I just met this woman, Callie Proctor, out of Minneapolis. She was at the church that the ICE protesters stormed. Her child was a preschooler at Annunciation when that shooting occurred. So you can imagine, she voted Democrat in 2020. She voted Republican in 2024, but she wrote this incredible op-ed. And at the end of it, she talked about, you applaud, what you stay silent on is what determines what is socially acceptable. She literally wrote, applause is not neutral. It tells us what is admirable. It tells us what is forgivable, and unmistakably, it tells us what will be protected socially, culturally, and morally. And if we want to protect our country from the criminals, the fentanyl, from all of the issues that we experienced during the Biden administration, the Laken Rileys, the Rachel Morens, if we want to make sure that that is not applauded, we need to start speaking up as conservatives more.
100%. Breaking Battlegrounds coming right back.
Sam and I are always talking about being prepared, whether it's hurricanes in Florida, earthquakes in California, flooding in Arizona, or supply chain disruptions.
Exactly, Chuck. When pharmacies shut down, it does not matter how tough you are, you still need access to critical medicine.
That's why we trust Jace Medical. The Jace case comes with 5 life-saving antibiotics and key over-the-counter meds, so you're covered when things get disrupted.
And Jace goes beyond just the Jace case. They also offer first aid kits, daily prescriptions, and long-term nutrition with Jace Pantry. Don't wait for the next hurricane warning or natural disaster. Take control of your health and peace of mind today.
Visit jace.com and use code FUTURE at checkout for $10 off your order. That's FUTURE at JASE.com.
In today's digital world, standing out is more important than ever. Whether you're running for office, leading a cause, or hosting a vote for the cutest pet in town, you need a web domain that's simple, memorable, and action-oriented. You need a .vote web domain. It's clear, impactful, and establishes a lasting presence for your campaign. Don't wait. Head to GoDaddy.com or Name.com, type in your name.vote, and get started today. Because after all, every pet deserves a web address that's as special as they are.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds with hosts Chuck Warren and Sam Stone. Continuing on now with Ashley Hayek. She is the president of America First Works. Follow her on X at Ashley Hayek. Ashley, before we went to break, you were talking about some of the impacts that are coming from Trump's policies and from the administration. Obviously, we're seeing a huge drop in violent crime. I wanted to throw out one other thing that I've caught here locally, and this is one of those sort of trailing indicators. We'll get the data probably about 6 months or a year from now. But, anecdotally, according to police in the Phoenix area, the price of fentanyl here has tripled since Trump took office. The street price. That's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. And that shows that the policies are actually working. And if you look at just what under the leadership of Attorney General Pam Bondi, we're seeing that the number of drugs that have been confiscated through the DEA, through the U.S. Marshals, I think the DEA stat is more than 9,800 kilograms of fentanyl powder and 47 million fentanyl pills have been seized by the DEA just in 2025. Not only that, there was 78,500 kilograms of methamphetamine and more than 260,000 kilograms of cocaine. So if you visualize that, it's about 150 fully loaded shipping containers full of meth and cocaine. That's massive. That is huge. And if you think that doesn't have an impact, I think all of us know of somebody who has experienced an overdose. It was the leading cause of death of people ages 18 to 40 up until the end of 2024. I'm hoping that it feels like it's starting to finally turn around.
It really does, and the data is starting to indicate that as well. You mentioned Pam Bondi.
There's one thing I want to discuss here. What do you think this administration and groups like America First Works, which you're president of, what can they do to push out to the public the successes this administration's having? So, for example, it's like these crime numbers have just dropped.
Extraordinary.
Fentanyl stopping, overdoses are doing, and you just do not hear enough about it. We get wrapped up in Epstein.
Gas prices are down. Food prices are down. Wages are up.
What needs to happen from just not the administration and the party committees, but groups like yours to get this message out? I sent this crime numbers out yesterday to like 100 people on email, and literally 80 responded like, I had no idea. That's how you win elections. They just don't know the good stuff that's happening. All they see is this chaos in Minneapolis, or they keep hearing about Epstein, which, you don't know, we're not all experts on. But what do we need to do to get this positive message of real successes happening? They're not made-up successes. They're real.
I'm really excited and looking forward to the President's State of the Union address that's coming up. I think that is going to kick off a series of communication, a series of events, both from organizations like America First Works, America First Policy Institute, the president, and we'll start hearing these numbers. It's going to be on also the candidates who are running for these congressional seats in the midterms to start elevating it. I know the president said through Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, that he's going to be getting on the road. And that's what we need. Like, that had such a major impact getting into those local media markets. And then also at AFW, we are going to be on the ground starting in March, going door to door, explaining to the American people like what's happening, as well as using social media as a tool. So we have a huge opportunity ahead of us, and it's our job and our obligation to seize it and share the good news.
What are things America First is working on right now?
We are preparing for the midterm elections. We will be on the ground in Kentucky in the primary against Thomas Massey, who has the new Liz Cheney.
Yes.
And we're very much looking forward to that. We are about to, I'll give you a sneak peek, do a big endorsement of Julia Letlow, who was running and primarying Senator Cassidy. And we're very excited about that and the potential of Julia Letlow serving in the U.S. Senate. And then we're going to be working starting in March on the list of targeted congressional districts, just focusing on exactly what I just said, getting out the message. I'll tell you something interesting. In 2025, there was an Omaha mayor's race, and AFW sent hundreds and thousands of text messages. We had a control group and a test group to a test group. And we told that test group, hey, like, this is what the president has been doing. This is what the media doesn't want you to know. 87% of the media is negative to anti-President Trump. This is the truth. We boosted turnout in that group, in that test group, by 2.9% without even mentioning there was an election coming up. And here's why there are no Kings rallies. Here's why there are ICE protests. The left thrives in chaos. They thrive in the lies and the darkness. And if we can start just enunciating and getting the truth out, it empowers our people. And once they hear and they know that they're part of this amazing thing, this positive thing, they're going to turn out to vote. So I'm confident that given the strategy, given what we learned in 2025, and being on the ground early, we started in June of 2024 for Get Out the Vote in 2024. So we're going to be there March 2026.
So Ashley, your organization never stops working, right? I mean, that's one of the things I admire most about it. But is this a lesson that we need to really be pushing on the conservative donors across this country? Is like, there's no breaks. We act
That's
like
right.
you can contribute for the 6 months ahead of an election and that's enough. The Democrats never stop.
Never stop. And that's the beauty of, I think, America First is how do you create that long-term infrastructure? Even some of the committees have turnover. So how do we make sure we're keeping the data fresh? How do we make sure that we're continuing being on offense? If you look at the network from the left of what they have, the number of organizations is absolutely insane. They spend hundreds of billions of dollars through their C3 and C4 networks, and there hasn't really been a ongoing campaign to continue to push the America First movement, and that's exactly what we're trying to build. We have over 100 what we call pathway partners, and our pathway partners have been absolutely incredible in terms of helping us work together as one, which I'm really excited about.
I want to go back to DHS for a minute, because this shutdown does not affect the military, but you are the spouse of a Marine, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So how do these shutdowns affect people who are protecting our country when they go without pay? Can you give me an example of what it's really like being in that situation?
Well, and remember, the majority of our military are enlisted members. The pay isn't, this isn't a super high paying job.
Right.
People serve out of love of country and service and honor. And so to put our families, our military families in this position, even just the fact that you have a government that's not willing to do their job to support, to avoid this to begin with, it's just, I feel like it's very demoralizing.
Yes.
And what we're actually seeing, remember, our veterans are no longer, our seniors are no longer the World War II veteran. It's like we're getting into the Vietnam era. So once again, they feel like we abandoned them once. And when we're not able to pass a budget that may benefit or may hurt, their resources, it's like we're abandoning them again. It's not received well, and it's quite frankly the job of Congress to get it together. And the fact that the left and a couple rogue so-called Republicans, who actually aren't Republicans at all, are willing to, put this great work in limbo is really just terrible, and that's why they're going to be primaried.
How much did the Trump providing the one-time bonus of $1,776 help military families?
It's fantastic. I actually saw it all over social media, with a bunch of service members posting what they did with their money, and it's so cool to see, because it's when you have an unexpected. And we're going to see this, by the way, through this entire tax season, because people don't realize what extending the tax cuts mean for them and what the reconciliation, the one big beautiful bill last year, has done for them. So I think honestly, through the next 2 months, as people are filing their taxes, they're going to see the impact of the administration already. And so I know Speaker Johnson is really working on messaging that we're trying to be as helpful as possible. But when people are going to put the pen to pad, they're going to realize what a difference this has made between 2025 and the previous years.
Ashley, I want to touch on Pam Bondi a little bit here before the end, but one last thing in this Homeland Security bill. What's in there that's new that people should be saying, boy, we need that? And this is just a silly shutdown. This is something that's necessary for the country.
This is just continuing. It's continuing the funding to Department of Homeland Security, and the fact that, this is keeping our community safe. FEMA, for example.
So this is just a continuing resolution for their funding. This is agreed upon prior funding then?
That to my understanding, that's what I understand. Wow. I don't think this is anything like the big funding came last year.
Right.
The big funding's done. Been there, done that. Bought the T-shirt.
It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy when Democrats vote for something like this and they're fine with it, and then all of a sudden they do this kind of thing. It's just silly. I want to finish up before we wrap up here on Pam Bondi, because I do feel like she has gotten an unfair rap.
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
Maybe of all the administration officials, she's been treated the most unfairly. Tell us why that is.
She has, I think, one of the most challenging jobs, and she, again, the media does not want to share and won't share the incredible success under her leadership. Just last week, she announced that they took in one of the accomplices of Benghazi. That was huge, something that Hillary Clinton said she didn't even care about. You look at prosecuting, it was both the Abbey Gate bombing mastermind and Benghazi terrorists on American soil. She's taken into custody dozens of key cartel leaders, including El Mayo, which was a Sinaloa gang co-founder. Mm-hmm. She took some of the prisoners who Biden commuted their sentences and put them in the toughest prisons. And she met with the victims' families. And to think that Biden would commute the sentences of murderers is unfathomable. And she's literally restoring the Department of Justice back to law and order. That's what the American people also voted for, what they wanted. So, 6 of members of the FBI's top 10 most wanted list have already been caught, arrested. So, again, accomplishments are on and on and on and on.
Again, our point. No one knows that.
Chuck and I are sitting here staring at each other, hands up.
Crazy. No one knows this.
And it's interesting because we'll pitch stories. I know that her offices pitch stories, and they won't take a lot. It's just not covered, or it's not covered the same way. And it's really disappointing.
But Ashley, here's the thing. There is so much conservative talk radio out there. They just need to start going on all these shows. And it's, they always think, I want to do Hannity, or I want to do, XYZ, right? The big names. But there are so many shows and markets. Like there's Seth here at this station that has 300,000 listeners. And those are the ones that need to go on.
And Democrats actually seem to have a strategy where they pair people out to all of that universe.
It's baffling for us to watch, to be honest with you. And there are tons of conservative outlets and talk radio that you can go on that have very loyal listeners.
Huge Substack followings.
Yeah,
there's tons of stuff.
They just need to sit down and start doing it. If they need help on it, have them call us. We'll do it for them.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And I think, this is something that you hit the ground running. They had a ton of priorities in the first administration. I would say that the Trump administration is a cabinet full of doers. Yeah. They want to advance the president's agenda. And when you're drinking from a fire hydrant, a fire hose, sometimes the touting the accomplishments is often can be overlooked, but I think that you'll see a turnaround, and this year it's going to be very much amplifying the good work that they've done.
Well, because legitimately, in comparing, frankly, Trump 1 to Trump 2, the accomplishments in the first year of this term are extraordinary. Comparing it to Biden, comparing it to Clinton, comparing it to Obama, he has had the most successful first term in recent memory by far, or first year in recent memory by far.
Hands down, no doubt. He has done more in the past year, and this administration has done more in the past year than Biden obviously did in all 4 years. And it's just blowing it out of the water. However, I will also say the Department of Justice and the administration has been sued more times in the first year of the administration than all of the administrations combined back to Reagan.
It's insane.
Combined.
It's insane. And it seems like also that one of Pam Bondi's challenges has been there is a lot of direct obstruction in that department that she's had to work through.
There's direct obstruction, but there's also the obstruction of a lot of the judges.
Right.
Like look at the conflicts of interest. Go back to the case in Minnesota with those ICE protesters. You had one of the judges whose wife was a deputy under Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota. Like, this is absolutely unbelievable. You have another judge who, him and his wife were big contributors to legal or illegal immigration.
This stuff is nuts. Ashley Hayek, thank you so much for joining us once again. We always love having you on the program. Folks, follow Ashley on X at Ashley Hayek and at America First Works. Breaking Battlegrounds will be back on the air next week, but if you're not already, go to breakingbattlegrounds.vote, sign up for the podcast.
I say this every election cycle, and I'll say it again. The 2024 political field was intense, so don't get left behind in 2025. If you're running for office, the first thing on your to-do list should be securing your name on the web. With a yourname.vote domain from GoDaddy.com, you'll stand out and make your mark. Don't wait. Get yours today.
Ho, ho, ho. What do you get when you mix cocoa, candy canes, and strong Wi-Fi signals? You get a podcast. That's right, Santa has a podcast. I'm telling stories from the North Pole, sharing elf updates, and answering your questions. And yes, spilling some holiday secrets. It's festive, it's fun, and fueled entirely by cookies. Tune in wherever you get your podcast. It's Santa Has a Podcast. Just press play.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. Our next guest up today, Tom Horn, he served 24 years in Arizona's third largest school district. He is currently the state superintendent of public instruction. It is a history of service, Tom, that you have put into this state that, frankly, I don't know that you get enough credit for everything you have done with our schools, because it has been a pretty remarkable string of achievement in your time in office.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
What is going on right now that people need to be aware of in our schools? What are your primary focuses as we head into this new year?
Well, my primary focus is to help the schools improve their academics. I think schools are all about academics, and there's a lot to do. So I often say that the media normally like to write about controversy, and I've had a lot of controversy, but 90% of my time and effort and of the department as well goes into helping the schools improve their academics.
Now, one of the things that's been controversial, it's come up, but I think that the tide is turning, and you've always been a big fan of standardized testing as a baseline, right? Yeah. Universities had kind of gone away from that, but they seem to be making a bit of a U-turn back to that. Why is that important? What does that baseline create?
Well, you need to know how students are doing. Some of them may be doing great, and others may not be paying attention, and that's something you really want to know.
Yeah, that was, the first student was me in English class. The second student was me in math class.
It may be that, if you go to a doctor, he's going to take your blood pressure, and if he didn't, you'd wonder. The same thing we have to do is with the students. We have to take their blood pressure in effect and see how they're doing, to see what remediation they might need, to see if they're paying attention and they need a little discipline maybe. And the parents want to know how they're doing, and then ultimately the employers are going to want to know how they did.
There's an article that came out that Arizona schools ranked as some of the most dangerous in the country. Do you think that report was fair, or do we have a real problem here?
We have a huge problem. I served as superintendent from 2003 to 2011. Then I was attorney general. And then in 2022, I ran for my third term as superintendent. There's a 2-year term limit, but it has to be consecutive, so I was able to do that. We have something like 500 times a year the police get calls about guns in schools.
500.
Yeah, that was in the Republic.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's really bad.
And what's the average age of the 500?
Well, I don't know an average age, but I know that there's some examples that would shock you. A preschool student, a fourth grade student. And so when I was elected to my third term in 2022, my big nightmare was that some maniac would invade a school and kill 20 kids. It's happened in other states. It could happen here.
Correct.
And the kids would be gone, and the parents would never recover. I know that because I lost a daughter. So I really went on a crusade to get police into the schools to protect the kids. In the last 3 years that I've been in office this term, we've gone from 190 to 565 police in the schools.
Well, and it's not just a police officer, but you're talking about a community resource officer who is trained to work within that environment and to enhance the school environment for teachers, students, and families alike, right? This is not just some random cop pulled off the street.
That's correct. I say police officer because I don't know. There may be some people who don't know what a school
correct.
resource officer is. Yes, we have 2 types of police officers in the schools. One is a school resource officer. He's there all the time, so you have the added benefit that he makes friends with the kids, and they get a better attitude for the rest of their life about the police. The other is where, we have a shortage of police just as we have a shortage of teachers, and so where the police station can't furnish anybody because they have a shortage. On their day off, a lot of police officers will work to increase their income.
Sure.
And so the school safety officers come 1 day a week, and so you have to have 5 of them for a school. It's definitely not as good as having the same
guy in there.
But it provides the safety. It doesn't provide the same benefits as far as the students' attitudes, but it does provide the safety.
So 2 questions here. How short are we? You said there's over 500 school resource officers now. How many more do we need?
I don't know exactly how many we need, but we have an indication of a big demand this month for more. I've been pushing for more. So we've asked the legislature for an extra $100 million because up till
is there pushback on that?
Well, they have a shortage, so they have their own budget problems.
Right, but protecting kids always should be sort of a priority, it seems.
I think, yeah, and there's receptiveness.
Right,
but they're going to have to balance things out. But up till now, I've never, we pay for the school resource officers. The school doesn't cost the school anything.
Interesting. Okay.
And but we have at least 5 districts that are planning a major expansion. One district alone is planning 22 more police officers. So,
wow.
So we've never said no. I don't want to ever say no because you say no, you don't have anybody available. What could happen is a maniac invades that school and kills 20 kids, and if the parents find out that they could have had a school resource or they asked for one and they didn't get one, that would be a real tragedy.
I want to switch gears here a little bit. Obviously, AI is a big topic culturally and across the country.
Yes.
AI-based or computer-based, software-based learning is becoming a big push in certain areas.
Yes.
How much are you as superintendent looking to adopt that? I have mixed feelings about it, and I'm curious about your take. How valuable is it, and how should it be used?
I'm glad you asked the question, because used properly, it can be extremely valuable. And I'm a leader in the country in adopting that. There's something called Khan Academies that most teachers are aware of, which produce hundreds of discs of videos of master teachers teaching subjects that the teachers can use as a resource. Khan is an unbelievable genius. He got interested in AI in the beginning when ChatGPT was just getting started, and he created something called Khanmigo. Khanmigo does not replace teachers. There's no substitute for personal learning, but it helps them. It gives them the equivalent of 2 assistants to do the grunt work so that they can focus on creative teaching. And the main thing it does is it gives tutoring, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, availability of tutoring, and it's very well done. They don't answer questions. If you ask a question, they lead you to the answer by asking their own questions, the Socratic method. So right now, a teacher gives a test. Some of the kids get 90%, some get 70%. The ones who get 70% still go to the next grade, not knowing 30% of what they need to progress. With Khanmigo, the teacher can sit down with the student and say, based on your test, this is what you didn't learn that I taught. Go to Khanmigo and get tutoring in those areas. So now it's possible for all students to get 90%, and it makes a huge difference.
That is fantastic. Let me ask you about this. So the Arizona Education Association, which in my opinion never seems helpful on anything,
Right.
was Save Our Schools.
The Miseducation Association?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're launching a ballot initiative entitled Protect Education Accountability Now Act, which basically is trying to reform our voucher system.
Right.
Tell us about the voucher system. Is there any part of this initiative they have right that we should look at? The one thing I've always noticed about school choice, and I've been a proponent and pushed it for years, is we need to do a little more self-governing sometimes, it seems like, with our schools. But tell me what you think about this initiative. And
let me say a few words about school choice first. I'm an old advocate of it. Back when I was in the legislature, I don't want to say how many years ago, we had charter schools first coming in.
Correct.
And the Senate passed a bill to limit the growth of charter schools, even though they were a Republican Senate. They still passed this bill. The House bill on the same subject did not have that. I was the chair of the conference committee to resolve those 2 bills. The first thing I did was to cut out the limitation on the growth of charter schools. I thought parents should have as few or as many as they want. And as a result of doing that, when I left office the first time I was superintendent of schools, we were first in the country in per capita use of charter schools. Florida was second. A lot of people like that because Florida always brags about being first. On this one, Arizona's first and Florida's second. Now,
we like kicking their butts. I mean, we like them, but we still like beating them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the great thing about school choice, whether it's charter schools or open enrollment or ESAs, is that if a parent feels their child is not getting his needs or her needs met, they have the ability to find another school where the needs will be met. We have a family with 3 kids. 2 are doing just great in the local neighborhood school. The needs of their third child are not being met. The parents can now find a school that will meet the child's needs. I don't understand how anybody can say that the parents don't have a right to do that unless they're so immersed in ideology that they lose the needs of the students.
Well, and one of the things you just said, hey, they can, if they don't think their needs are being met at a particular charter school, they can pick them up, they can move them to a different one that suits their needs better. That's actually something the union and some of the others have focused on, is charter schools sometimes close. And they go off as if that's a terrible thing, that's a failure of the system. I look at a closing charter school as a vindication of the system, that it wasn't meeting the needs of enough parents to justify its existence.
Right.
And instead of continuing on in zombie education land like so many district schools have done, it went out of business and somebody else who's doing a better job came in behind it.
Right. That's absolutely right. Let me say this. I'm a public school person. I went to public schools, did well. My 4 kids all went to public schools. They did well. But if a parent feels their child's needs are not being met, they should have a choice. And I think it's good for the public schools because competition is good for everybody. That's why the United States was prosperous and the Soviet Union was poor. Here we had competition. People worked hard to compete, so we produced a lot. We could consume a lot. In Poland, they used to say, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us.
Right.
And, with that attitude, you don't produce much, you don't get to consume much. And I've personally experienced the effect of school choice on public school people wanting to do better than they otherwise would have. I remember when I was on the school board, I did the negotiation with the teachers union. And one year they said, you need to eliminate the advanced placement courses that don't meet the numbers that they're supposed to have because it's too few students, it's not efficient, you better use money elsewhere. And I said, if you do that, you'll lose all your best students to charter schools, which we had already at that time. And they dropped the subject and they never brought it up again.
Well,
because they had competition.
Yes.
So this is something Chuck and I have talked about before, though. The U.S., we have to maximize our best brains. Right?
Yep.
Like those gifted and talented programs are one of the most important things in our schools because we cannot hold. I used to, you're in class, some kids are smart, some kids aren't. You watch the smart kids just go out of their minds, sitting waiting for everyone else to learn stuff they already know.
Yes.
We're not maximizing their time when we do that.
Well, it's even worse than the smart kids. I remember years ago, a friend asked the principal about her child. He was in high school and he was popular, but he was a B student. And the principal said the problem is we focus a lot on the D and F students. The A students have their counselors, are self-motivated. And the ones that could really benefit from us getting involved are the C and B students, because they're just there. They're not causing problems. They're not failing. So we forget about them. And they said, that's what we have to change because these are the ones that have all the potential.
Absolutely. The studies show the best. This won't surprise you. The best means of conveying information is tutoring, one-on-one.
Right.
I can't afford tutors for 1,200,000 kids that we have in our. By the way, the charter schools aren't hurting the schools that much. We have 1,200,000. We have 100,000 in the ESA. We have 1,200,000 in our public schools.
Right.
I can't afford to get tutors for all of those, but with Conmigo, they can all get tutoring, and that solves a lot of that problem.
Years ago, when I was working in Utah, the Utah Education Association wanted to hire a firm to help with something. I forget what it was. And so they wanted me to go to the legislature. And I said, if the legislature will give you all 5 things you want on this, which was also increased funding, but you have to allow school choice, are you good with that? Sounded reasonable to me. Oh, hell no. No, not a chance. I mean, and this is like literally a wish list that they're like, if you can get all of this, which was significant increases,
right.
XYZ, but you allow for school choice. No. And you can't say this because you're running for office. I just don't believe the Education Association cares about kids at all.
Yeah, you're talking about an initiative to destroy ESAs, basically.
Well, they want to gut them. They want to put them under bureaucracy.
Yeah, right. So this is the history of economy. If you have a monopoly and someone starts to compete with you, you ask the government to protect you from the competition. And that's what they're doing.
That's a great point.
They liked it when they were a government monopoly. But as a government monopoly, you don't always perform at your top.
Well, watch how they're doing with the media now. you thought, Larry Ellison's family bought Paramount, you thought the world's crashing now because all the conservatives supposedly control media now, which is just an absolute lie. But anybody that comes and pokes into their complete monopoly, they just simply have a mental breakdown about it.
This is. I mean, people think the government is there to protect them from competition. It's not.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. No.
Yeah.
And that's what we're dealing with here. If the public schools should do just fine. As I said, they got 1,200,000 versus 100,000, but they've got to perform, and that's what we should expect of them. That's what they should want to do. Many want to do. I'm not criticizing public schools. I say I'm a public school person. My 4 kids were public school people. And they did.
Chuck and I have said for years, one of the big failures on the right is our failure to really focus on making sure that our public schools are what they can and should be.
Exactly.
I mean, it's great to have charters. It's great to have options, and I think those are really valuable.
Yeah.
But we're missing out on 80-90% of the kids.
Best case scenario for school choice advocates, 15% of kids are out of the public school system. I mean, it's always the way it's going to be. It's it's your neighborhood school, it's your community, so it should be its best and the brightest. You right?
Yes.
You're combining with ASU to do some school improvements in Arizona.
Yes.
What are you doing there? What's ASU doing to help?
Well, we have a terrible teacher shortage.
Yes,
we're losing more teachers that are coming into the profession.
And the reason, and what would be the reasoning?
There are two reasons. One reason is the main reason is salary. The number 2 reason is a big thing I've been trying to push is administrators not supporting teachers on discipline.
Yeah.
I have a letter from teachers that says she could name 40 teachers who left the profession because they didn't get support from, she was at Phoenix Union, by the way, which has a crummy administration.
Yes.
So it's the they with them leaving the profession, we poll them. Why did you leave? Number 1 reason is salary, and we've got to do something about salary. I've been pushing really hard at the legislature. Every year I give a state of education speech. I say you can do it without affecting taxes because we've got a lot of money in our land trust. And then the second reason is failure of administrators to support teachers on discipline.
So give us an example. What's that? So we have 500 kids bringing guns to school, which is a shocking number.
Yeah.
But what are we talking about? What is this discipline problem that these teachers are facing? Is it kids just yelling at them, acting up all? What is it?
It's all of the above.
Physical, right up to physical assaults.
If they don't have an administration that'll discipline them, we have great administrators in our state.
Sure.
But they're not all great. And some of them have adopted the policy, a student misbehaves, and they say, oh, you poor darling, it's not your fault. You come from a difficult family.
Yeah.
And they give them I've been told at Phoenix Union, by the way, if the teacher sends a kid to the principal, they come back with a bag of potato chips and a Coke because they want to be their friend.
We don't offer that here at the radio station. You get that bottle of water and that's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about like Remember the Titans, right? One of my favorite movies, but the great point that the Denzel Washington's character was making is you can't coddle kids who are going to face a lifetime of challenges. You have to prepare them to meet those challenges head on.
You mentioned that I spent 24 years on a school board, 10 of them as its president. In those 24 years, we never reversed a teacher on a matter of discipline, not once in 24 years. We became known as the toughest school district around. Our learning went up. Our test scores went up. So actions have to have consequences. That's an important thing for kids to learn, and it's an important thing to keep an orderly classroom.
Correct.
Well,
so if a kid acts up, he's got to have a consequence that will discourage him and others from continuing to do that.
And allowing that one kid to act up, right? You're taking away from every other kid in that classroom and in that school. You're allowing them
Plus,
to be damaged.
If they see him get away with it, they start acting up. And pretty soon, teacher has to leave the teaching profession because they can't possibly teach and they can't take it anymore.
Is there a study about where the salary needs to be to retain teachers?
I don't know of one, but it's more than we're paying now, for sure.
So if you got them all a $15,000 increase, would that help stem the tide of departures?
Absolutely. And Matt Gress had a bill. He's a Republican legislator.
Right.
To give every teacher a $10,000 raise, and the teachers union opposed it.
Because they wanted everybody else to get the raises, the administrators of things. Is that correct?
Well, it was classified. More of their members now are classified than our what we call
teachers.
certified
Yeah.
teachers. We're talking about janitors, bus drivers, and so on, and they deserve a raise too, no
Sure.
question. But politically, right now we can get a raise for the teachers if the governor and the Democrats will give the same support to that as the Republicans did.
Did Katie Hobbs veto that?
No, it didn't pass because because of the opposition of the teachers.
He had a couple of defections, so it didn't make it to the governor's desk.
But you want to talk about veto? I proposed that they outlaw cell phones in the classroom.
Which should be an absolute no-brainer.
You know, if you can just imagine, I ask your listeners, just imagine what it'd be like to teach a class where kids are scrolling on their
They've literally got their iPods or their earpods in. They're streaming videos. They're not even in that classroom.
That's got to be a cause of teachers leaving the profession. It's crazy. Okay, the legislature passed it. The governor vetoed it. Now, so every time I appeared on a program like this or on TV, I would say, write the governor, ask her the second time around, please don't veto it. And we passed it a second year, and this time it was not vetoed. And it's the law now, and so you can't have cell phones in the classroom. And that is a big, big improvement.
That's enormous.
I'm going to go back real much here to the guns thing, because I think parents hear this. When, let's say, an 8th grader brings a gun to school, what does the school do? Does it close down? What is the procedures for that, so parents know what happens?
Well, hopefully they act quickly so they don't have to close the school down, but it's a crime. They have to report them to the police. Now, I mentioned Phoenix Union.
Right.
They don't want to report it to the police because they're saying, well, they might enforce rules that we don't agree with. Well, we're talking about laws. We're all supposed to follow the law. You have some crazy...
You can't even make that up.
I know.
I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy. I'll tell you something else about them. 2 schools wanted school resource officers. The superintendent of the school district wanted school resource officers. The board voted it down.
And the reasoning was?
I think they're anti-police. They're ideologues.
What are Arizona schools doing to trade our current crop of kids? We've got these semiconductor factories coming out here. We've got AI. What are schools doing to prepare these kids to work in these environments?
Great point. I've made it a very high priority. The Taiwanese company that makes semiconductors, TSMC, alone are talking about hiring 60,000 a year. And a lot of these CEOs have said to me that we have their main problem is a shortage of skilled workers. So I said, I'll make a deal with you. I have access to 1,200,000 kids. I can get you the trained workers. In return, you will tell our CTE, Career Technical Education teachers and administrators, what skills the kids need to be taught so they can get a good job with your company. So you can get very high salaries right out of high school if you have the right skills.
Yeah.
Because my main job is preparing kids for college, but not everyone's going to college.
No.
So we have to deal with that. And so we have something called the SIP, S-I-P, Student Industry Partnership. Margaret Dugan is here. She made up the name.
I'm writing that down, Margaret, and I'm going to trademark it for you.
Right.
and it's good. We should be taking a giant gulp of that sip.
Yeah.
And
Cute,
so
Sam.
and so
I can't let an entire show go without cracking at least one joke.
So when I say CTE, I'm talking about Career Technical Education, what they used to call vocational education. Our CTE people did a tour of the state. They divided the state into 11 parts. In each part, the companies that want to hire people from that area, like miners will want from one area, other companies will want from another area, would come and they would meet with the CTE people in that area, and they would trade information about what skills you need to be teaching, so we will give the kid a good job right after high school with a good salary. And that's a big priority for me.
So what are some of the skills that they're saying they need to go work at these semiconductor plants?
Listen, it goes across the board. I serve also on the Board of Regents that governs our colleges. When we meet at a university like ASU or U of A or NAU, we have a breakfast where we have teachers at the table and one board member at each table. And I had a professor tell me that she had kids coming into college who could not calculate the volume of a cylinder. You can almost do that by instinct. So we have a big problem about kids getting the basic skills in high school, and employers notice that the diploma doesn't mean what it used to. In fact, we have schools, believe it or not, that have an 80% graduation rate and a 5% proficiency rate.
Unfortunately, I do believe it because that's a national tragedy.
And it's all because of vouchers too. That's why.
Right.
Yeah. So my goal is every student graduates either college or career ready, with no exceptions. And this has been a massive expansion of career technical education, and I think it's absolutely necessary.
So, for example, here's another category. President Trump's done something that does not get enough credit, where he's rare earth materials and rare earth materials. The mining, right?
Yeah.
And the refining of it. Arizona will get a lot of that. Right? You're going to see a lot more copper. I think we have, 16 of the 25
we
minerals?
have 16 of the 25 critical minerals for aerospace. And
they're going to need a lot of these young people to become workers. And it's not like the old days where they sing walk into the mine with a shovel. There's a lot of robotics involved now and so forth. So what do we do to prepare them? And those would be $80,000, $90,000 plus jobs, easy.
If you're a kid who's worried about your future, a parent who's worried about your kid's future right now with AI AI is really, it looks like in the next couple of years, going to change the landscape in white-collar jobs in particular. These jobs are kind of AI-proof because you still need the pair of hands to go do the work.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And we've done this expansion to be sure that no kid graduates who isn't either ready to go to college or ready to take a job that pays a good salary because they've got the skills.
I want to wrap up here, okay? You've been doing this a long time.
Yep.
Why do you want to run for re-election? And when you're elected, what are the 2 or 3 things you're going to focus on those next 4 years?
Yes. So the reason that I'm running for re-election is the reason I ran for a 3rd term, which is the first time ever that anybody did that, and that is, if I were in my law office and I was reading about these kinds of problems, I'd have smoke coming out my ears and I couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
I have the great desire to do something about it. It gives satisfaction that no amount of money can give you. But it takes time. It takes 8 years to
Well, there's a bureaucracy for a reason.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, I'm a great believer in public school. I don't want anybody to think I'm being critical of public schools. I'm saying we've got to solve all the problems that exist in some schools, not in all schools. We have some terrific schools.
Sure.
And when I did ads for ESA, I said we have excellent schools in Arizona. I took some criticism for that, but it's true. We have excellent schools here.
Yeah,
My
of course.
kids went to excellent schools.
Sure.
But they're not all excellent. And we have got to shape up. And I would rather be in this job making a small fraction of what I used to make in income and having an impact on this problem than being in a law office and being upset about what I read.
Yeah, you got to go become a California or Minnesota official so you get paid two ways.
Yeah, right. I'm the worst paid superintendent out of the 50 states.
Now, Arizona, frankly, and Chuck, we pay our politicians terribly here. I got to be honest, like $24,000 a year for serving the House and Senate.
Yeah.
They pretend it's a part-time job. They pay you guys nothing. The statewide office holders, it's actually kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. But as I say,
you're not doing it for the money. You've
life is not just about
right.
money.
Yeah.
You want to have satisfaction to what you're doing, and I could get great satisfaction from doing this job.
Well, Tom Horn, thank you so much. I think we believe you do a brilliant job in there, and we
nice
look forward to having you back in again for another term.
Whenever you want,
Love to have you.
Yeah.
Love to have you.
Yeah, whenever you want me to come back for more interviews, I'm delighted to do it.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Folks, make sure you're going to breakingbattlegrounds.vote. Sign up for our podcast. Sign up for all of our extra content. We're on Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your favorite content. We're there. Make sure you're getting signed up because we have a lot of great authors and extra content coming out these days. And Breaking Battlegrounds will be back on the air next week.